Canada's Finest, 1970. Their biggest hit, American Woman, was a complete accident. During a show, the guitarist broke a string and started playing a random riff. The band joined in, and the lyrics were improvised on the spot. Pure lightning in a bottle. Keith Richards in 1983. The guitar is a custom-built Zamatis known as Macabre. For Keith, this period marked a personal resurrection. On the set of Viva Las Vegas, 1964. The explosive on-screen chemistry between Elvis Presley and Anne Margaret wasn't just acting. The two were engaged in a passionate, year-long affair that Presley reportedly never forgot. Queen's legendary guitarist, Brian May. But he's not just a rock star, he's a doctor of astrophysics. He paused his studies to join Queen, then returned to school 30 years later to complete his PhD dissertation on interplanetary dust. The genius and the prodigy. A 12-year-old Stevie Wonder meets his hero, Ray Charles, in 1962. Motown initially billed Stevie as the next Ray, but it wouldn't be long before the young master forged his own incredible, untouchable legacy. Here's Britain's answer to Elvis, Billy Fury, commanding the stage at Wembley in '62. But that explosive persona hid a secret. He was painfully shy and suffered from crippling stage fright before every single show he ever performed. The masterminds of Steely Dan. Before they formed the band, Fagen and Becker were struggling staff songwriters for ABC Records. They started Steely Dan out of pure necessity, because no one else was good enough to play their bizarre and brilliant songs. The Kings of Southern Rock. Their legendary album, At Fillmore East, is the gold standard for live records. The label hated the idea and wanted a studio album, but the band knew their epic jams could only be truly captured on stage. The Pirate King and his poison. On stage, Keith Richards kept a bottle of Jack Daniels, but his signature drink was a nuclear waste, a potent mix of vodka and orange soda. It was the fuel for the most notorious tour in rock history. A classic portrait of the Doors at their peak. But the tension in this photo is real. A drunk Jim Morrison arrived hours late to the photo shoot, infuriating the rest of the band. A perfect snapshot of a brilliant band beginning to fracture. More than just a concert, this was history. East Berlin, 1988. Bruce Springsteen told 300,000 fans, "I hope that one day all barriers will be torn down." Just 16 months later, the Berlin Wall fell. Rock and roll as revolution. Joan Jett in London, just after the Runaways split. It was here she first recorded "I Love Rock and Roll" with members of the Sex Pistols. The song was rejected by 23 different labels before she released it herself and made it a classic. A sea of humanity at a Pink Floyd show. But for Roger Waters, this sight was alienating. He felt a deep disconnect from the massive stadium crowds, a feeling of isolation that would directly inspire his masterpiece, The Wall. Two Sun Records originals, Backstage in Memphis, 1956. Johnny Cash and Elvis were friends, but also rivals. Cash became famous among musicians for his spot-on impersonation of Elvis's stage moves, always done with a nod to the king. Pink Floyd at Abbey Road, recording their debut album. In the studio right next door, the Beatles were making Sgt. Pepper. The young Floyd were sometimes invited in to watch the masters at work, a truly legendary passing of the torch. Los Angeles, 1974. This wasn't the glamorous rock star life just yet. Kiss was a cult act, touring relentlessly with little money to show for it. The band and their label were betting everything on one last gamble, a live album. The Golden God. This iconic moment wasn't an accident of nature. Legendary promoter Bill Graham arranged for Doves to be released during Stairway to Heaven, creating a piece of pure rock mythology that perfectly captured the band's mystique. The legendary E Street Band on the Darkness Tour. This was a triumphant return after a 3-year legal battle kept Bruce out of the studio. All that pent-up anger was unleashed on stage in Marathon, 3-hour shows that became the stuff of legend. This is George Harrison in his truest element, not on stage, but in the gardens of his Friar Park estate. He became an obsessive gardener, personally restoring the grounds and finding a spiritual peace in the soil he couldn't find in music. The voice of a generation, Roger Daltrey, on The Who's first major American tour in '67. Fresh off their explosive debut at the Monterey Pop Festival, the tour was a whirlwind of rock and roll excess that cemented their legendary bad boy reputation. Backstage in 1978, the two sides of AC/DC's personality. Bon Scott, the legendary Hellraiser, and Angus Young, the teetotaling schoolboy whose onstage mania was famously fueled by nothing stronger than milk. A perfect rock and roll partnership. R.E.M. at their absolute peak in 1994. Michael Stipe's shirt is a nod to an underground author he admired. He often used his massive fame to champion lesser-known writers and musicians, a quiet act of integrity from one of rock's true gentlemen. Deep Purple exiting their private jet in 1974. They were on top of the world, living the ultimate rock star dream. But behind the scenes, creative tensions were already tearing the band apart, making this the final glorious flight for this lineup. Stevie Wonder in London, 1974, at the apex of his creative genius. He had just released 4 masterpiece albums in a row. This tour was a triumphant return after a near-fatal car accident just a year earlier had nearly silenced him forever. The photo that defined punk rock. This shot for their debut album wasn't the first idea. The band rejected an earlier, sillier photo shoot, opting for this gritty, street-level image that perfectly matched their revolutionary sound. 4 brothers against the world. Roger Waters in Leeds, 1970. This wasn't just any show. It was at this university gig that the band performed a piece called A Piece for Assorted Lunatics, the world's first listen to what would become the dark side of the moon. The godfather of shock rock, relaxing after the massive success of Welcome to My Nightmare. But Alice's true escape wasn't rock and roll. It was golf. He played 36 holes a day and credited the game's discipline with helping him get sober.